If your bank balance was a score that reflected your physical health right now, how would it look? Would you be rich? Would you be broke? Would you be proud of what you saw? Or would you be a little embarrassed and say, you know what? I got some work I need to do. And that's the question I've been asking this week. And I've been asking a few of my friends, seeing, okay, guys, what we got going on? What are some things that we've been sticking to make sure we're on the healthy track? And of course, we're all doing what we can. But I wanted to share some things that I've been sticking to for the past couple of years that have helped me get out of the rut, and some things that I think have definitely helped me through my 20s and where I'm at now in my 30s to help me get to where I'm at this point. And of course, I want to know what you guys are also sticking to, and maybe some things that you wish you stuck to sooner. Because of course, we can accumulate all the wealth we want, but if we aren't healthy enough to enjoy it, then what's the point? So let's get into it. And we'll be back in 3, 2, 1, we gone. Welcome back, family, to another episode of the First Sip Podcast. I'm your host, Dikembe Smith, and this week we are sipping on some good old Gatorade. No sponsorship yet. Gatorade, if you guys need somebody, shoot me a contract. I'm ready to go. Definitely going to need this, and been using it the past couple of days. We are still dealing with high 80s, 90-degree weathers here in Philadelphia. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to say it's global warming, but the globe is warm. So yeah, that's how things are going here. But we're still staying mobile. We're still moving, still doing what we need to do on a daily basis to make sure we're sticking to our healthy plan, right? And that's what we're talking about this week. What are the things that we're doing on a consistent basis to make sure that we're staying healthy, making sure we're not falling off the track, right? And just going downhill and looking at ourselves in the mirror and saying, okay, what am I doing? Because I remember a couple years ago when I was sitting there, like I said, probably like a few of you who might be listening to this right now, sitting there during the pandemic and saying, man, you know, the gym's really shut down most of the time. I really don't want to go outside and just run all the time. So what do? Oh, I'll just sit inside and watch TV, play some video games, and just lounge around all day. And where do you end up doing that day after day after day? Not in a good place. I'll tell you that. Right? You end up with your head all foggy, not knowing, okay, what to do, which way to go. You sit there, you start getting all anxious and stressed out over the smallest things. You start losing your physique that you once had and really cherished. All these different things start compounding. And why? Just because you start letting yourself go and you're saying, hey, you know what? I'll get back to it when I get back to it. Or maybe when the world gets back to a perfect place, then I'll get back on track. Well, listen, as we know now, the world's always in a crazy place, so it's never going to be a perfect picture, and we just got to do what we got to do to get started. So let's get into those habits that I've been sticking to that helped me get back into it. Now, this first one is definitely going to sound like a whole bunch of woo-woo to some of you who may not have tried it, because it did sound like that to me a couple years ago when somebody first recommended it to me. I was like, what do you want me to do? Just sit there and just like, you know, not work on not having any thoughts and just breathe? And of course, if you know what I'm talking about meditation. Right? That thing that people say, oh yeah, you know, just become one with your thoughts, just sit still and everything, all the stress will just leave your body. And I'm not going to sit here and say that that's exactly how it goes, but it is a very crazy feeling when you really do get to that point where you are able to sit still in the middle of the day, in the middle of all the chaos that you have going on in your mind and all around you, depending on what it is that you do. Being able to have that moment of peace and tranquility, whatever it is you want to call it, at almost like at a moment's notice, right? Because you can do this at any point in time. It is one of the best tools and one of the best feelings that I think you can get, especially, like I said, if you're somebody who deals with a lot of stressful moments and you put yourself in these anxious states. It really does help you take a step back and say, okay, wait, things aren't as bad as I'm making them out to be. I can take my time to do what I need to do, and I don't need to be in 10 different places at once. Right? And I know that may not make sense to some of you who have never tried it, but trust me, take a seat, set a timer for 10 minutes. If you're looking for a little bit of guidance, you know, because you can't sit there in the silence, I'm right there with you. Go on YouTube, type in self-guided meditations, you know, and you'll find teachers on there who will take you through a 10-minute, 15-minute, 5-minute meditation, wherever it is you want to start at, and you'll be able to really get through the process a lot easier, because they'll help you with different mental cues, different breathing cues, and things that you want to keep in mind, you know, as you're going through the meditation. Because of course, like I'm saying, there are going to be thoughts that start popping into your head, and you're going to get straight away, and you might start feeling, you know, different things that you didn't even know were going to come up before you sat there and realized, like, wow, I got a lot of stuff going on and I never really sat down to focus on it. So that's one of the main things that I said has helped me over the past couple of years, is really just taking the time to sit down, become one with my thoughts. I know that sounds kind of like Bruce Lee-ish, but become one with my thoughts and say, okay, what's really going on up there? Become aware of it and then move forward. Trust me, try it out. Let me know what you think. If you have tried it out, then let me know what you think too, because I definitely want to share. If you guys got any recommendations, any books, any other tactics, let me know. But let's get into the next one. So the second habit that definitely helped me the most, and I almost wanted to put this one at number one, but of course I wanted to go with something with mind first, because you got to make sure that's good. But the second one, right, we're getting right into the physical activity, and this is going to be daily movement. And this is going to come in the form of walking, running, whatever it is to really whatever it is to really get me outside and to get my body just in that, locomotive state. So I'm not just sitting still all day. Because if you don't know, like I've said before, I'm a real estate agent here in Philadelphia. And a lot of my job, if I'm not going out, and doing tours with clients, is either sitting at a desk, or sitting in a car, driving back and forth from one place to another. And then when you're sitting there looking at your watch at the end of the day and saying, I wonder why I feel so, fatigued. I wonder why I feel so tired all the time. And you look at it and say, wow, I only got in 3,000 steps the last week every day. And then you look at it the past 6 months and you're like, wow, I'm only averaging about 4,500, 5,000 steps a day, 3,000 steps a day. What is going on? And this is something that clicked for me. And I'm like, yo, you are not moving around. You might be going to the gym a couple times a week here and there, but even when you're there, you're not really walking around that much, right? You're going from machine to machine to machine. So what are you doing for that cardio aspect, right? How are you really taking care of yourself and making sure that you can move around and not just sitting around all day, like I said, in that sedentary state, and convincing yourself that you really are fit and active because you can move some weight. And this is something that when I first got into it, I couldn't believe how badly I was out of shape. When it comes to running and things like that, I felt like I had an extra 100 pounds on me and my lungs felt like they were about to drop out of my chest on that first day. But of course, you do things over and over and over. And if you're like me, you still hate running and it doesn't get any better, but you still do it over and over and over. And I'm telling you, it is one of the best things that I've done. And I want to continue to push myself in that aspect because I still feel like there's areas that I can improve on, especially, like I say, when it comes to the running. Walking is one thing that I love to do now, right? I can get out there, throw on an audio book, or sometimes I just go out there and just listen, to just nature, right? Just listen to what's going on outside around me. And it's another form of like meditation as I'm moving where, I can just let my thoughts go, see what's coming up in the day, kind of plan things out, strategically and say like, okay, this is what I got to do here. This is what I got to do here. But it's a lot easier for me because I guess it's, you give your body that ability to move and you're not just sitting still with those thoughts that are just stacking on top of each other. And for me, it just allows me to kind of map things out a lot, much better while I'm on the move, right? And not sitting still. Some people say, especially if you have sales calls to do, this is something you can do on your walk, right? You can, map out the calls that you have to do coming up. And then you can say, okay, for the next 30 minutes, I'm going to call this person, this person, and this person. And that way you're moving and knocking that out as well. And you're probably going to be a little bit more conversational on the phone as you're going through it, right? Because you're not overthinking things while you're just sitting there locked in a chair waiting on their next word. So try it out. Let me know what you think. If this is something you guys already do, like I was talking to my friend Albert the other day, if you guys know him from the beginning of the podcast, Bert was telling me he's pushing for 11,000 steps a day. And I said, okay, new standards, say less, right? So we had to turn it up a little bit this past week. All right. So that's another reason why I'm sitting here chugging on this Gatorade. But let's get into the next habit. Now, as we are talking about drinking, habit number 3 will be the cutting out of alcohol. Now, for me, I don't know if this is going to be a permanent thing, but as of right now, it's something I haven't done in the last year, and I don't see myself doing it anytime soon. I can't say I really miss it as much as I used to love drinking in my 20s. Right now, I am at a point where I don't miss the hangovers in the morning. I don't miss the moments where, the last 2 years where I was drinking, where I would start having kind of panic attacks in the moment saying, okay, well, is my GERD going to start acting up? And that's basically chronic acid reflux. Is that going to start acting up while I'm at this event? Am I going to have some sort of episode? Those are things I just don't want to deal with anymore. And like I said, unless I know I can kick my feet up for the next week after I drink, I don't plan on doing it. So those casual nights out with friends, hey, let's go to the bar and grab a drink. I'm all about going and meeting up with friends, and being able to kick it. And I'm so happy to say now I'm at a point, where I don't have to have the drink. I can grab a soda. Give me a ginger ale all day. I'll sip on that ginger ale and be happy. Right. So, give me something like that and you can get through the drinking. But I know for some people, this is a very hard thing. And I know it's not something that and I know, trust me, a lot of my friends still like to drink. But what I would say is just try to find ways of cutting down on it. Right. Find something else you can do in the meantime. If you're, you're coming home and having a drink right after you get home and you kick up your feet, say, make that the time where you go out for that daily walk that we just talked about. Right. For that first hour when you're home. Go outside, get some steps in, get those endorphins flowing. And then when you get home, see how different you feel, right? See if you really just want to sit down and have that drink, or see if there's other stuff you want to start doing, right? Maybe you got to clean up your place a little bit, so you start doing that too when you get home. And then look at you, you just knocked out 2-3 hours, and now you're not drinking as much as you used to. So different things that I think of, when it comes to ways of just cutting down drinking, especially if you don't have, maybe other things that you can do immediately. Maybe you don't have, an accountability group or people around you, who can kind of check on you. But, that's another thing that I want to talk about, a little bit later too, that can really help you when it comes to locking into a couple of these habits. But, right now, like I said, we're just focusing on cutting down the drinking because we all loved it, especially if you were in college and you were somebody who really loved to go out, and in your 20s, this is something that you love to do. It could be hard to let go of it, but you got to ask yourself, okay, is this really beneficial for me? Is this something that's really, helping me when I do go out, or is it something that I can let go of? And there might be other things that you enjoy doing. So, find what it is that's your thing, something that's not going to be too detrimental, when you do want to have your fun, and just keep it going from there. So let's get into the next one. Now, this next habit is one that I really wish I locked into all the way through my 20s, right? Because I started off with a couple things here and there, the whey protein, the BCAAs, but I kind of fell off, in the middle of my 20s, I got lax, I said, okay, well, I'm eating enough, so I should be okay. But then you go back and you start doing the blood work, and you start talking to your doctor, you start researching and doing other things, and you realize you need to start sticking to proper supplementation, right? So habit number 4 is proper supplementation. And that comes in the form of making sure you're taking your daily creatine, taking your multivitamin if you need it. Right now I'm taking things like magnesium, ashwagandha. So these are different things where, I'm piecing it together and realizing, okay, I might be deficient in certain areas, right? Things like vitamin D. So what am I doing to make sure that I'm at the right levels, so I'm not going through my day, like I said before, feeling fatigued, wondering why, okay, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, and I don't have the same energy like I used to a few years ago. What's really going on with me? I think I'm eating well, I think I'm checking off all the boxes, but am I missing some things? Am I getting in all the electrolytes and those kind of things that I need? That's a huge one that I started doing research on in the past couple of years, right? Is proper electrolytes and hydration, right? One of the things I talk about a lot on this show is, what we're drinking and, what we're sipping on. And over the past couple of episodes, definitely talked about staying hydrated, right? Because as we're going through it, whatever it is, what kind of work you're doing on your day to day, it's not going to happen if you're not hydrating properly. Right. You might notice, okay, well, like I, started off my morning and I grabbed this 30-ounce bottle of water. And then you're leaving work and realizing you're still holding on to the same 30-ounce bottle of water. And now you're finishing the day with maybe 60 ounces. And for my guys out there, that's not enough. That's especially if you're moving around, if you're active, that 60 ounces is going to be straight through your body, and you're going to be sitting there wondering why, you feel your body's all inflamed, why your digestion isn't working the way it should be working. These are things that hydration is so important, right? You want your muscles to fill out the way you think it should fill out. All these different things, right? You want your mind to work the way it's supposed to work, right? The meditation not going to work if you're still sitting there feeling dehydrated. So these are all things where I'm sitting there saying, okay, am I taking the proper supplementation? Am I properly hydrated? Like I said before, make sure you're doing the research too, right? So because I know I said before about things like creatine and ashwagandha. Now, creatine is one that I think across the board most people can take, men, women, whoever it is that's listening to this. Definitely tap in, do your research on that, anywhere from between 5 to 10 grams a day, depending on your level of activity, your weight, height, all those different things. But also other things, right? Like right now I'm using ashwagandha, and that was a recommendation from my doctor, based off of my last meeting. But, like I said, I have different things that I'm working on right now, managing different stress levels. Cortisol is something I'm starting to learn more about, those different things, and saying, okay, well, how can these different supplements, herbal supplements and things like that really help me with sticking to these long-term health goals that I have, right? And making sure that I am putting myself in the best position when it comes time to do those other things that I want to do, right? Like we talk about financial security and building wealth. It's all fun and well. But like I say, you can't do any of that if, you're stuck in bed or you're stuck in your house all day because you can't go out anywhere and really do anything because you're just so unhealthy. You know what I mean? So let's get into the final one, because this is one of the best ones if you are stuck in a rut and you can't get the ball rolling. One of the best things that I think you can do is habit number 5, which is finding support. Now, finding support may come in different ways, right? Like I was just talking about my last meeting with my doctor. That's definitely one, and probably the most obvious one, right? Make sure you're going to your doctor, doing your blood work, doing all the checkups, talking to them and telling them, hey, what you're going through, what's going through your head, and they'll be able to walk you through, and give you different recommendations on things you should look into. But also, don't forget about the people right around you, your friends and family. You might have people who have gotten to a certain level of success in different areas when it comes to their physical health, when it comes to their wealth, like we talked about before. So reach out to them. Say, hey, what do you have going on right now, right? Like, I see you really been knocking this out, or like, I see you're a really good runner. What are some things that you do to keep your pace, right? Because if you're like me, I suck at keeping pace. All I know is how to sprint and run fast. And because that's all I've done in any sports that I've played. So when it comes to things like, running long distance, 3 miles, 4 miles, 5 miles, I don't know how to pace myself at all. And I will sit there and burn myself out in the first half mile. So what do? I reach out to my friend. Hey, what are some things that you do when you're running to make sure you're keeping a good pace? How are you running 8-minute miles, 7-minute miles, 6-minute mile? These are things that I would love to do, right? And you ask them, you get some tips, things that you can work on, right? Maybe you have another friend who's really good with the mental game and they just always seem super zen when you're around them and they don't let anything affect them, right? They just always seem like they're just like we were talking about Bruce Lee before, like, just be like water, just kind of just be one. Don't let anything come in and phase you. So you reach out to those people and say, hey, what have you been tapping into? I know you got some meditation tips that you can tell me, because I'm trying to do that because Dikembe said that's his #1 habit. So what's some meditation things that you've been doing, right? You've been reading some books. Do you use the app on, the Apple? Do you use the Apple Fitness app and you tap into those meditation guides that they have on there? If you don't know, they do have those on there too. That's how I got started with mine. Great coaches on there, highly recommend them. And like I say, you start building your little portfolio of healthy habits and things that you can do, right, to really start building a healthy life. Because if you don't, you're going to be scrambling, like I say, from one thing to the next and just seeing your health just decline. And you're going to wonder and sit back and say, okay, well, like, where did this start? How is this happening to myself? Asking yourself a whole bunch of questions about how you got there instead of asking yourself questions about how you get out of it. And to me, the most important thing is to continue to ask yourself questions about how do you move forward, right? What's done is done. It's happened. It's in the past. You didn't work out for the last 6 months. You've been sitting down for the past year and now your body just feels like it's broken down, right? Maybe you've lost 15 pounds and you look skinnier than ever and people are wondering, hey, are you eating? Maybe you've gained an extra 20 pounds and people are wondering, and it's like, hey, what have you been eating? Depending on where you are on that spectrum, it could be a troubling situation. But what I'm saying is you can do something about it. And it all comes down to decision. Okay, am I going to do something about it? And like I like to talk to my family and friends about, they know sometimes I'll fall down the rut and I have those friends who will call me back out and be like, okay, I see you getting nice. I see you getting skinny out there. Slim Reaper. Okay, what's going on, right? And you need those punches and jabs every now and then, right? Constructive criticism to really light that fire and to get you going again, right? I have some friends and I can see them and I'll be like, hey, I can tell you I've been taking really good care of you, and that might be the jab that they need to get back into it, so like these are things that I'm saying, like having that support group, having people around you who can give you that constructive criticism to really push you forward, I think is one of the best. And yes, I'm going to call it a habit because you create an environment, right, of these people. And these are the conversations that you have week after week. So it does become a habit. It becomes a form of accountability. So you can stick to those other things that you told yourself you're going to be doing. You share that with those people. And so when they see you kind of falling off and be like, hey, have you been sticking to those other things we talked about, right? I know you had about 3 other, things that you were working into your routine, into your health portfolio, but what's been going on with them, right? It doesn't seem like you've been really doing them. Let's talk about it. And I'm telling you, it'll be the one that helps you lock in all of those other habits that you're working on and that you may have trouble sticking to right now. So, like I said, I want to know what some things that you guys have been working on, maybe some things that you wish you stuck to a lot sooner. I don't know what age you're at right now if you're listening to this, but just let me know, right? Maybe in the past year, the last 2 years, the last 2 months, whatever it is, something that you're sticking to now and saying, okay, man, this is really going well for me and I need to keep doing this because I see the benefits compounding over and over and over. Because what I really realize about all of this is that these healthy habits are like automatic transfers into your health portfolio, right? And they are going to continue to compound year over year over year. And you're going to look back on it and be like, man, I'm so happy I started that way back when. Just like people tell you, if you invest 25, 50, $100 every week, every month, then wait and see what happens when you're 40, 50, 60. Right. And so that's what I want to see. I want to see what my health looks like, what my wealth looks like, and obviously the other areas of my life too, right? Family, faith, making sure I'm having fun. But right now we're talking about health, right? Because we got to make sure that that's maintained to make sure all that other stuff is even achievable. So guys, let me know what you got going on. And until next time, stay tuned, stay curious, and as always, enjoy your first sip.